Okay, the recording has resumed.
All right, then let me read a statement. Sam Alba, Chair of the Indigent Defense Commission, hereby
join the meeting.
IDC meetings at an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety to those who may be present at the anchor location. The President of the United States, the Governor of Utah, the County Health Department, the Mayor of Salt Lake County, the Mayor of Salt Lake City, and the World Health Organization have all recognized a global pandemic currently exists related to the new strain of the coronavirus. This pandemic may be easily transmitted, and it has spread globally, including throughout Utah. This has caused a state of emergency to be declared. The IDC will not provide an anchor location during this state of emergency, but will ensure the notice to the public contains information regarding how a member of the public may participate in an electronic meeting. This determination not to meet in an anchor location shall be valid for 30 days. And I signed that July 20th. I'll have to re-up that August 20th, depending on what the conditions are at that time. And I signed that proclamation or that declaration. So with that in mind, let's take roll. Sam Alba.
Maureen Kamalu is on the call.
Michael Zimmerman.
Todd Weiler.
Wally Bugden.
Margaret Lindsay.
Pamela Vickery.
Kim Cordova.
Richard Morrow.
Michael Drexel.
Sean Milne.
Joanna Landau and staff.
All right. With that in mind, let's look, we have before us the issue of the Duchesne County grant modification proposal. I want to thank the staff for sending out the information. Have had a chance to review it, and I would like to hear any comments about the proposed modification, and then we can put it to a vote and go from there. Okay? So anyone have any comments or any questions? And as I understand it, also received an email from Joanna that people from Duchesne County are also participating. Is that correct? I think I see at least a couple of faces.
Yes, Duchesne County's here.
Thank you.
This is Wally Bugden, and to me, it seems like Duchesne knows best how they need the money and how best to spend the money. They have five homicide cases. Trying to reallocate some of the money to defense resources makes perfect sense to me.
This is Michael Zimmerman. I'm curious about the staff recommendation to move to put more money into juvenile than the county wanted. That seems to me to be the big shift. Can I get an explanation for that based on what's going on out there?
Yeah.
Before an explanation comes on, I forgot one other item, and I'm sorry, but I want to put it on the record. Mary Corcoran is not participating in this meeting. She abstained from even the consideration of this because she has been appointed to represent one of the defendants in the murder prosecutions that are occurring in Duchesne County at the time. I just want the record to reflect that. With that, staff can respond to Michael.
Record will so reflect. So the only material for this was this sheet that we developed. I'll just walk you through it, Michael, because I think it will explain what's going on. So This proposal is what we initially offered them. We offered this consistent with our other grants, where we took out all defense resources, which we have taken out of all of our other grants. We took out mileage, and we took out any increases, and we took out this line item, which many counties had for county attorney reporting. That we ended with the increased focus on having public defender oversight on grants. Then on the contracts, this juvenile court contract is matched by one on Duchesne County's side. They're both at 72,000. So we reduced that consistent with our other grants, 80%. Same with the conflict counsel contract. And we reduced these to 0. It was basically a matter of triaging, making sure that we met our expectations with SB 32 from last year's legislative session, and reducing these that were not on contract because it seemed the easiest place to do it, and based on our consultation with Duchesne, that may not have been where they wanted. So Duchesne came back and proposed this. They asked to have this 40% restored to the hourly conflict counsel. And those are the people who are, like Mary, providing representation on the murder cases. They are not under contract. They are under a court order from, I believe, Judge Chiara to be paid at a specific amount. The conflict counsel contract, they're fine with having it 80%, but then they wanted to cancel one of the juvenile court contracts and pay it on an hourly basis up to 20,000. So, and then they wanted to move money into defense resources. So because none of our other grants had this line item, not one, and in fact, there are other grantees who are also asking for this back, and we have maintained a consistent no with them for the same reason that we're trying to keep as many people employed as possible. And if we start to fund this line item on one grant, I believe we're going to have grantees wanting to all renew, or many of them to renew their grant requests and grant awards. So this was the initial, this is Duchesne's offer. We looked at the landscape in Duchesne after you all posed questions. This is information about the murder cases. This is the system side spending, which was based on their last year's spending because of these murder cases. And then these are the juvenile court caseloads and our 2 juvenile attorneys. They are currently earning on the contracts more than Uinta County attorneys are earning on their per case basis. They have the counties or the representation split into juvenile delinquency and child welfare, with cases being assigned on a rotating basis, and then the other person provides conflicts as needed. So we looked at these 2 proposals. We talked to the managing defender in Uinta County, and we talked about what things we could do to bridge the gap between what Duchesne was asking and what we were able to award. So there's 3 categories to consider, really. And the one is the defense resources. That's their request. The other option is to do a sort of systemic re-shifting of the money, where you put that 7,600 into 40% right here. Our initial award on this was 0, so we could put the defense resources into here. We could reduce the juvenile court contract, keep them both on contract, but to reduce both of them equally so they keep their rotation current, and then reduce this conflict counsel contract somewhat more to be able to fund this amount. The reason why this looked like we were able to reduce it is that attorney gets about 5 cases a quarter at most. He's been on about 15 cases this year, so that means he's representing people at about almost $3,000 per case based on the $40,000. So it seemed a place where we might equitably reduce it. So this was the effort to sort of maintain our priorities, get Duchesne what they needed up here, and then make sure that we're keeping things consistent with our other grants.
So,
Long-winded explanation by Joanna.
so the premise is if we put money into defense resources, we're just opening Pandora's box for all the other counties. Okay, thank you very much.
This
is Kim, and so that's why I really like the alternative to the alternative. It's the third graph that the staff made the recommendation, the counter to the counter. And so I just think that it really just keeps in line and it keeps it consistent. It gives, I think, Duquesne, I'm hopeful that they will see it the same way, a very responsive counter proposal to what it is that they need, and I'm hoping this meets their needs. But I understand that we want to address their very specific concerns, but we do have to still stay consistent with what we've given in other grants and what we've awarded to other counties and cities, and also keep in line with what our core principles are. And so I'm more inclined to support the counter proposal made on that with that third graph.
I would like to hear from Duchesne County and give us your, how you feel about what the staff is recommending.
Well, my first point, I appreciate Wally's comment of letting us decide where the funds will.
Can you introduce yourself? Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah. I'm Shalise Jessen. I'm with Duchesne County. So,
What is your position again?
so I'm not sure what my official title is right now at the moment. I approve the invoices for Duchesne County if we go with the current contract. So I'm, I guess, a support system to Lance Dean or a second referral from Lance Dean.
What's your title with the county? I think
I'm the county commission assistant.
Oh, okay, good. And I'm a commissioner in Davis County. I actually was hoping a commissioner would be on the call. Are they very much aware of all this?
Commissioner Hansen in my office with me as well.
Oh, okay.
So yes, there is a commissioner present. But I do appreciate Wally's comment of stating that the county would best know where the funds could be distributed. I understand where the IDC commission is coming from. My concern is on the conflict counsel contract where you've put that he's only been given 15 cases this year. Because of COVID, we have not been able to hold court like we normally do. So I believe that case number is down substantially coming from the court side. I know of the attorney that we're referring to and the caseload that he has had in the past. So I don't want to base our numbers off of what he's been given this year because of COVID. They haven't been able to hold court regularly. We don't know what cases he will be given once the courts open back up fully. But with the 6 murder trials that we have coming on board, not knowing what our budget is going to be like next year, going into 2021, we don't want to harm our budget with being obligated to fulfill certain criteria. We need to be able to use the money for these 6 murder trials as they are at the top of the list to be completed for the year. So that's why we came back with the proposal that we did after talking to the commissioners and our county attorney. That's where we best feel that the money could be distributed.
Can I ask you a question?
Thank you. Please, go ahead.
So in wanting to meet your responsibilities for those murder trials, our counter proposal has put the money back in exactly as you asked, that 40%, right? So on the contracts. The only issue is really the $7,600 for defense reserves. And you have, I believe, a $69,000 defense reserves budget, which you would have to go through before you could even access our $7,600. And the reason I point that out is it may be that in January, when we find out about our non-lapsing budget, that we are able to then repopulate some of our grants, and it may be that we can repopulate defense resources at that point. But my guess is you may not go through that 69,000 before December. I also wonder if, because COVID is continuing and the courts aren't resuming anytime soon, for the same reason, it isn't appropriate to reduce that district court conflict contract and then potentially repopulate that, as well as the defense resources in January if we're able. Just thinking sort of longitudinally about it.
And I'm basically going just off of the recommendation that I've been given from the county attorney's office, from what they have how they see the funds will be allocated and what, because I think they are leaning more towards using the defense resources that we have put in our budget and exceeding that. So that's why they're asking for help from the IDC on that line item.
Yeah, I understand that. I think what we did is look at the numbers, right? The cases and the caseload to see what the numbers actually reflect. And then our responsibilities under SB 32 for the juvenile court contract. So those are the sort of the competing priorities
right
we're dealing with here. I guess that's those. Thank you for answering my questions.
What does Mr. Dean say is the place where he thinks he needs the money for all these murder cases?
It's an interesting question. I feel like I'm in a little bit of an uncomfortable position because currently there's no MOU between Duchesne County and myself.
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Lance Dean. I'm a Uintah County employee and I'm a regional manager for IDC. Currently, there's no MOU in place between Duchesne and my office, and I was actually a little bit taken back by the request. I just didn't have a lot of notice that this was happening. But I did meet with Joanna. That's where the counter to the counter came up. I can indicate to everyone that when you look at that line of defense resources special projects, in the newest budget request that was completely canceled out for the year 21, we had an idea to put some projects together to deal with some attorney reviews. This is back when we thought we had money to do some attorney reviews and do some client surveys, also to work on a brief bank dealing with some of the typical defense things that we're doing that we would be sharing with other systems in the state. And we've actually started that. And so that was the idea that we had for the special projects category under defense resources. That got completely wiped out, and I understand that because Joanna wants to, how she said it was, prioritize, not prioritize things over people. I just don't know what Duchesne intends to do with their special projects portion of defense resources when they put those few thousand into that. I just don't know the answer. We haven't consulted with each other on this. So maybe Duchesne could answer what their motive is to put that money into the defense resources. Having said that, on the counter to the counter that we're looking at right now, when we look at the numbers, I can indicate that the conflict attorneys numbers prior to the pandemic in the year 2020, he had 2 cases prior to the pandemic and 5 cases after the pandemic. So that seems to be fairly a little bit on par with that. The attorneys are still getting assigned the cases. I don't think that there's a bottleneck on the assignment of cases if somebody qualifies for indigent defense. I think that the pandemic has, made other issues and problems that we've had to deal with, but the assignments still. So we just kind of looked at those numbers and compared them with our Uintah County attorneys, and it did seem that the numbers were a little bit inflated per case once we did the math on that. And so these numbers actually sink them right into the middle of the numbers that we have when we compare these numbers with Uintah County. It just, I support having 2 juvenile court contracts, not 1 contract and then 1 conflict contract. There's usually a father and a mother in each case, and they're usually qualify for court-appointed counsel. So that's why we looked at the numbers and then reduced what we thought was fair on the contract based upon the per case numbers that we had with Uintah. That's not all I have.
Thank you. Any other comments from or questions from commissioners?
Sam, this is Margaret.
Please.
I think I just want to add to what Lance said on the juvenile side of things. and that is that in a great percentage of cases, you have two parents that require, separate attorneys. Sometimes you have more than that. And these cases will, the numbers may look small in comparison to a district court case, but these cases can have multiple trials at different times, multiple hearings, outside of court mediations, team meetings. They can last up to 24 months plus, and it would greatly undermine the representation to a number of parents and families if that second contract were to be cut or moved to hourly. So I am very much in support of the alternative that has been proposed, where it's a reduction to those contracts. I understand that's not fun, but necessary. I know in Utah County we're facing the same type of things, but I cannot support a cut of that second contract in good faith, knowing what I know about the juvenile courts and the fact that these cases are proceeding despite pandemic.
This is Pam, and I just have to echo that. I mean, as Joanna said earlier, we have SB 32 that talks about the specialization of this. As Lance indicated, you frequently have parents, the conflict numbers go up, and as Margaret indicated, those numbers are there and those cases are happening, and the juvenile court is holding those cases. So, and I think also that we need to maintain consistency where we've done what we've done with regards to where we've cut with regards to other grants that have been required, and that part has been with defense resources as well.
Sam, could I make a comment? This is Mike Drexel.
Please.
To build off of Margaret and Pam, I also like the idea when two parents, especially in the child welfare context, both have attorneys that have been appointed to assist them through the juvenile court process, that one attorney is not routinely being paid a flat rate on contract while the attorney for another parent is being paid hourly, and the various incentives that go along with either doing more work because you can bill hourly or doing less work because you're getting a flat rate, or any of the just disconnect between two parents in the same case having attorneys that are being paid or compensated differently. And so for that reason, I like the idea of keeping two contracts in place. I also like not having defense resources only in one grant award across the entire state, and where we haven't awarded those elsewhere and have in fact explicitly denied grant funding for defense resources in every other instance. It seems strange, though the need appears great in Duchesne County. It would be an anomaly, and I don't know that we need anomalies when we're awarding grant money, especially where the grant money is so restricted this year. So that would be my input on this matter.
Thank you. Anyone else? Do I have a motion regarding this?
This is Michael Zimmerman. I'd make a motion that we approve the staff counter proposal, the last proposal, the one that's been endorsed by Pam and Margaret and Michael.
Do I have a second?
Second, this is Todd Weiler, second.
Any further discussion on this matter?
This is
If
Lorene.
not,
Sam?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
just Lorene, and I just appreciate all of this discussion. It's very helpful. I'm very glad that Duchesne can come in and explain their perspective and their need. And honestly, every one of you commissioners who has spoken has added some very important information that's helped me understand fully the counter to the counter. So good, very good discussion, very helpful discussion. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Sean Milne.
Yes, Sean, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to draft off of Lorene's comments. This seems, I think we would all agree, a more challenging session than we normally would have in these grant proposals, and I've appreciated being able to sit back and listened to the varying perspectives today from everybody that's chimed in. I tend to concur with the need for consistency, and that's not to discount Duchesne County's perspective. I find it, noteworthy that Lance feels like he wasn't completely looped in on the process, though, and maybe I missed something there, or maybe that did deserve to catch our attention. So hopefully there's something to be learned about streamlining this kind of debate in the future should it happen again. But I wanted to just say I appreciated everybody's input and being able to sit back and listen to the differing perspectives. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sean, for that comment. Anyone else? If not, then a motion's been made and with a second, and I will vote first, and I vote that we adopt the staff recommendation, the last one that was presented to us today, that the motion passed. So that's my vote. Would you take roll, Joanna?
I will. Commissioner Kamalu?
Aye.
Michael Zimmerman?
Aye.
Senator Weiler?
Aye.
Mr. Bugden?
Aye, Captain.
Margaret Lindsay?
Aye.
Pam?
Aye.
Okay. Kim?
Aye, yes.
Rich?
Aye.
Michael Drexel?
I'm a yes.
And Mr. Milne? Commissioner Milne?
Aye.
That passes by all present.
Thank you very much. I want to thank everyone for your participation. I particularly want to thank the representatives from Duchesne County. I want to make an editorial comment here. I appreciate the input that came into this today. We have varied experiences on the commission, and I'm glad to hear from individuals who bring their individual perspectives, because they inform the rest of us who don't deal with these issues on a daily basis like they do. So I appreciate that, and that's one of the beauties of participating with this commission. And I just want everyone to know that. That's my editorial comment for the day. Did we have anything else, Joanna?
This is Todd Weiler. Could I just say something?
Please.
I'm a shareholder in the same law firm as Mary Corporon, which really made me wonder if I should recuse myself from that discussion. But I think my involvement here is primarily as a state senator. And in the legislature, we declare our conflicts and we still have to vote. And so that's kind of the course that I followed. If anybody has a problem with that, let me know. But I don't think I'm going to make a penny more or less, regardless of how the Duchesne contract turns out. But I did want to declare the conflict there. I'm not working on that. I'm not working on that case. That doesn't mean I couldn't get drafted into working on that case in the future, but I'm not expecting to.
Maybe say no if you do get drafted, and then I think you're fine.
Okay.
Joanna, anything more?
I'm pretty sure you all know what last motion needs to be made.
Well, before we make that motion, I think it's important to note that, Joanna, you kind of look like the Wizard of Oz with that background. I'm not saying it's scary. I'm just saying it really reaffirms that you are the puppet master.
I think the rest of us should join arms and skip off through the poppy field.
Still on the record.
Do I have a motion?
True caller.
Margaret Lindsay moves to adjourn.
There you go. I like that one better.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
Aye. Thank you very much. The motion's passed.
Thank
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joanna and all. Good job. See ya.